Republic Bank, and I will be your moderator for this evening's session. Thank you for joining us for this session entitled Protecting Your Accounts, presented by the Republic Bank team, Mrs. Sasha Shillingford, Mrs. Keisha Applewaite, and Mrs. Inga King. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping matters. This session is being recorded and will be shared on the BARP's YouTube channel. If you prefer not to appear in the recording, please turn your cameras off at this time. All participants will be muted upon entry to ensure a smooth experience for everyone. The meeting will open for questions during the question and answer segment. At that time, you may enter your questions in the chat or use the hand raise feature located next to the chat button in your Zoom app or browser. With that started, let's get started. Mrs. Carolyn Rice Boyne to deliver the opening remarks.
And good evening, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Moderator Shane. I'm so anxious to see what I can learn from this session this evening. This evening, I want to acknowledge the presence of the members of the Board of Directors, Management, and staff of BARP, and our esteemed partners, Republic Bank, and their team, and I'm certain that they will have some of their management staff and other staff members who will not be presenting, on the viewing as well. Today we're going to look at, we'll be taken deeper into the digital world and look at protecting your accounts, and the team, they're well versed on every aspect of protecting one's accounts. And why we think that this is important is because we recognize that everybody's going to the digital platform, which is very important. But part of BARP's remit is to ensure that our seniors could lead lives of independence and dignity. And focusing more on independence, we find that it is necessary that they are totally equipped and aware of these scams and different activities and how people would try to get their monies away from them because of their vulnerability. So we are here to strengthen our seniors, and we are here to let them get the confidence, because one must instill confidence in the online market, because if not, you'll find people still shying away from online. And we are all in the digital arena, and we are going to go deeper and deeper. So it is indeed a pleasure, and we are anxious to be here, sitting at the footsteps of the team from Republic Bank as they examine protecting your accounts and all the avenues that are necessary to protect one's accounts. So again, a welcome to the team of Republic and to the members in this chat, and those friends of BARP. Welcome this evening. Let's take some notes so we all have our pens and paper ready so that we can take notes. So during the question and answer segment, we can field some questions. And just before we go back to Shane, hand over to Shane. Shane, I want to impress upon everybody here that there are no stupid questions. If you have a query, this is the place to raise it. So good evening all, and back to Shane. Shane, it's over to you.
Shane, you're muted.
All right, sorry about that. Thank you again, Mrs. Rice Boyne. I will now introduce the presenters. We have Sasha Shillingford. She is an experienced attorney with over 20 years. With over 20 years of experience. She holds a master's degree in business administration. In 2008, she was appointed Corporate Secretary General Counsel at Republic Bank Barbados, part of the Republic Bank Financial Holdings Group, which has operations in 16 countries and has been in that position ever since. Mrs. Shillingford is currently a member of the senior management team, which steers the overall strategic operations of the bank. She also has direct responsibility for all of the bank's legal matters, including fraud, other types of unauthorized transactions, and data privacy. She leads a legal team of 5. The next presenter we have is Keisha Applewhite. Keisha is the manager legal at Republic Bank, and her duties include the provision of advice, preparation of contracts, and regulatory compliance. She has held the position for 11 years. She is also experienced in commercial property law and practiced in the area for 9 years as well. She holds a master's degree of distinction in corporate and commercial law and is a member of the Barbados Association of Compliance Professionals. Keisha is a member of the Young Women Christian Association and the Barbados Boxing Association, and has served as a board member and vice president of both of those bodies, respectively. Lastly, we have Inga King. Inga has 20 years experience with Republic Bank Barbados Limited, where she has developed expertise in anti-money laundering, combating financial terrorism, and data privacy. She holds an MBA in International Banking and Finance, along with professional certifications from the International Association of Privacy Professionals and the Financial and International Business Association as a certified anti-money laundering professional. In 2022, Inga was appointed the bank's data protection officer, where she is responsible for overseeing the data protection program and ensuring compliance with the Data Protection Act. Outside of work, Inga is passionate about community development and actively volunteers in various outreach services. I will now hand over to Sasha, who will take us through the initial segment of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Shane, and good evening to all. Happy to see the large turnout so far this evening. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you to my team for joining me on this. So we are, as Shane said, we are representing the legal team at Republic, where we do see a lot of concerning things that come out of the day-to-day, whether it be in terms of the illegal activities that happen in terms of persons trying to take advantage of others, or sometimes it's actually very legitimate things that people themselves do related to their own accounts, which can actually expose them to being taken advantage of. So that is really why we're here today. We want to do our part as Republic Bank to, just to give some tips and sensitize the public really to, what those threats are that are existing out there. So Shane, if you can cut to the presentation, I'll jump right in. So you can go on to the first slide. So what we're going to cover today is authorized and unauthorized threats to your account. So as I said, sometimes we are the ones that actually consent to doing certain things that get us into, that can actually expose us to our money being at risk. And then sometimes it's those people who are engaged in criminal activities that are targeting us. We'll also cover what you can do to protect your accounts, as well as from the privacy perspective, what you can do to protect your personal data. And Inga is going to speak to that. Next slide. So as we all know, I put this screening just to show, this is where we are really coming from. As we all know, there was a time maybe not that long ago where, hopefully we had our wallets full of cash, nice and cashy, walking around and everybody had their billfolds and your wallets were fat and cash was king. And so as from the bank's perspective, what we would be most on alert for, as I said, I've been with Republic Bank for 18 years. And I recall my first few years at the bank, what we'd be on the watch for were a counterfeit notes, and that would be the common thing that we would see. I would recall receiving these things to observe, and everybody knew that the watermark was put in, and etc. And on we moved. We evolved to checks, And then everybody had their checkbooks, and you had to make sure you had enough checks for spending, and everyone was writing checks. And then what we were seeing, of course, was check fraud, because of course the criminals, they do stay very much in the know, and they know how to duplicate. They knew how to replicate checks. They knew how to replicate checks that looked quite legitimate, even from government offices, from banks, managers' checks. Sometimes they were very, very difficult to tell the difference between, what was legitimate and what was not. And on we went, kept moving, of course. And then we moved on to cards. To some extent, we're still in that card era, where your debit card, your credit card is what we mostly use probably for transactions these days. And we started to see, but what we were starting to see was then the skimming in the ATMs, where criminals were putting devices in our ATM machines. And when you stuck your card in, basically they were stealing your information, and we were on the lookout. We were always told that, be careful how, watch your card when it's going in. And if you see anything funny, report it. If you see any devices on the machine, report it. Or it was at the point of sale where you're purchasing something and you're using a merchant machine. That merchant takes your card to run that card. And basically, they can be stealing your information in the background from your card, your security number at the back when they have your card. And then they come back to your table with your receipt that you need to sign. So then we obviously evolve now. Technology evolves, and you put in chip technology. So now you just have to tap your card. No one is going to take your card and go into a back room to run it and come back, or it's not supposed to leave your sight. So it's a constant evolution of how we make payments, but always those people who have bad intentions are ahead of us, and they will continue to evolve also. So we're moving into the era of mobile phones being your sometimes when you travel, you will see that a lot of people are actually paying just using their mobile phone. They're not using a card anymore. So things are moving ahead, and of course we all know that we are moving on to online banking as a major channel that we make payments just by transferring funds from account to account. And that is also evolving, where you can use internet banking now to wire money yourself. You can initiate those transactions, even foreign exchange in some cases, for some banks, for some accounts. But the point is, it's continuing to evolve. Next slide, Shane. So a critical thing to remember is that we are all vulnerable. We're vulnerable in different ways, but I don't think there's anyone who is above the threat of your funds being targeted and stolen. Of course, some groups are more vulnerable than others for specific reasons. But I think we all, and whether or not we fall into one of these vulnerable groups, we also know other people in the other groups. So of course you have the disabled community, and they will be dependent on family, on caregivers in many cases, whether physically they can't get into the bank themselves and other people have to be going into the bank to do transactions for them, or maybe they are, they're unable to hear, they're unable to see, and therefore there's always going to be a reliance on others to really help them in those cases. Of course, the elderly, my category as a bar member. We do know that we have an increase in dementia. I think that's a worldwide problem that we're seeing, and it can start early. We also have an increase in solitary elderly, people living alone, not as much, support in terms of family around them at all times. So we do find, and working in a bank, you see a lot of very unfortunate situations where, people who really just shouldn't even be taking the bus and going into town and coming into the bank on their own, who are barely able, to get there on their own, have to be doing these things without help, or in some cases getting that help from someone else who is maybe in many cases either abusing them or taking advantage of them in some way. And even if they're living alone, a lot of the times it's not necessarily family who's taking care of them. Someone is being paid, and that puts them at risk as well. And sometimes it's your very family who's the one who is, unfortunately, those are the ones who in some cases are taking advantage. Technology is dynamic, it's constantly evolving, as I said. So, and the increasing reliance on technology for everyday life, just to do anything, you have to go onto some website, you have to sign up, you have to register. More and more we're seeing that where you can't just do business in, person to person. It is through some form of the use of technology. So that creates a vulnerability for the less proficient with technology, as well as the fact that it just removes that personal touch, and you just really don't know who is on the other end of the screen. In addition to the fast pace of life, constant distractions, and I like to give this example of myself being in this very box. I recall sitting in traffic, and I'm heading back to work. It's the middle of the day. I see an email coming on my phone. So I'm concentrating on the road. We're not moving at the time, but I'm still keeping an eye on the road. And I see an email coming on my phone, and it says that a message was received, a voicemail, a message was received, and that I can click to listen to the voicemail. Being aware that the bank was going through some upgrade to its systems, including telephone systems, I assumed it was a legitimate email, and I thought, well, that's new, but I did click to hear or to see. I assumed maybe that the message would have come through, and it turned out to be not a legitimate message or email. So as far as nothing happened as a result, well, when I say it was not legitimate, it was actually a test that the bank was conducting itself. So we are tested. They do give us these phishing tests, what they call them, where they try to see, because it just takes one employee to click something and we could potentially expose the organization. But really, it was through just being distracted. And for a moment, I did pause and think, this is not the norm. This is new. But I ignored my instinct and I went ahead and clicked. Luckily, it was a harmless email, but it may not have been. And so that's why I say there's no one who is beyond that. One thing I can add here is, which I should have another box, is our children. And it occurred to me later, I have a teenage son, and he has a computer, and the fact is that he purchases games, he does things online using my information, right? That I may have helped him to do something, and you're not quite sure, is it saved somewhere, can he access it, and is he being safe in terms of his use of his computer, in terms of clicking on emails, falling for tricks. You never know. So again, our children who live in the household with us and they have their own computers are potential vulnerabilities for us as well. Next slide. And the reason I'm stressing on this group, and these two groups really, is because I know that in the last, I would say probably year and a half, the banks, they had quite a large attack, I would say, on just the general public, which spanned various banks, where we noted that the people who were really falling victim to the scams were in the maybe above, they say the above 60 group. And it was very unfortunate for Republic Bank alone. Customers lost maybe upwards of, over 400,000, maybe more in total. We were able to recover some of those funds, but again, simply falling victim to scams was really what contributed to that. And again, it comes from these things. You're physically unable to come into banks. You're relying on other people. There are people who work in their households, who are caregivers, who have accessibility. I have here checkbooks, but people really shouldn't have checkbooks anymore, but have access to credit cards, to bank account statements. They can tell how much money you have. You're in one room and they're going through your stuff in another room, sharing their credentials. A lot of people we know would have asked someone to help them set up an online account or register for, on an online website. It doesn't have to be your bank account. There are other ways where, they're just not comfortable with the technology and they get help to do that. But by doing so, they basically are giving away your confidential login type information. Persons who join others on their accounts out of necessity. So they can't get to the bank, and they just add someone as a joint account holder just out of, because they don't have a choice. Relying on others to complete your documentation and just generally being not as up to date with technology. It's easy to remain up to date when you are in the working world and it's all built in as part of your training. We have to go through constant training in the bank. I mean, we are in the legal department, but we have to understand the technology. We have to understand the scams. We have to understand all the things that we need to do to protect ourselves and our information and the bank's information. So we are forced to keep up to date. But once people are out of the working world, it becomes a lot more difficult to keep up to date with it, especially where you're not using it every day. Next slide. And another major factor that we have noted is that, once upon a time, everyone had to come into the bank to do transactions. So tellers knew customers by name, by face. They knew their habits. They knew their transaction habits as well. They knew that Mr. Smith comes into the bank once a week and he withdraws $2,000. So if Mr. Smith comes in 1 week and he's withdrawing 10, they can have a conversation. What's going on with you, Mr. Smith? How come you're taking out so much money today? And that kind of interaction actually used to help the banks protect people. We also had the opportunity to observe, is someone else coming in who doesn't normally come in? Normally, Mr. Smith or Mrs. Smith comes in with her son, but who is this strange person now that's bringing them? Why are they waiting at the door and they don't want to come right up to the teller counter? In those cases, we are required to pull that customer aside where we observe anything suspicious, and that could be also any red flag, signs of dementia, signs of undue influence by someone else. As I said, we often see someone bringing someone to the bank, but they're waiting they don't want to come inside where the cameras will catch them. So when you see that kind of activity, it's a red flag. Or customers over time. You have customers who have been banking with us for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years more. And you see that deterioration sometimes. And so when you see those red flags, you can pull them again. You can pull them aside. You can ask questions to ensure that they actually understand what it is that they're doing. And you're able to then say, you know what, let's try to call someone. Let's call social services. Ms. Shillingford is showing some signs of forgetfulness. She didn't remember that she was here yesterday and she withdrew the same amount of money. She doesn't know where she put that money. And we can actually protect people that way. Similarly, we've had many occasions to call the police where we see something suspicious. Sometimes we recognize the perpetrator. There are repeat offenders who target the elderly and maybe form relationships. And then we have had security say, I know that lady. She comes in, she's brought in other customers before. She's a scammer, that kind of thing. But technology is now removing that physical contact that we have with customers. It removes the need for fraudsters, for scammers to come into the bank. And it makes it very easily to commit fraud, where all you really have to do is find a way through the technology to get access to accounts. Next slide. So these are moving on to some of the newer fraud methodologies, and we've seen all of these. We see these at the bank. The first one is malware, and malware is really where a virus of some sort is sent to your device. You might get it through an email, you might get it through a text or WhatsApp. And basically, it's if you click on something, it basically takes over your device and and the fraudster will gain access to all your information that's on your computer. Data breaches is where an organization's computer systems may be hacked. I know there was one recent one here, quite a public one, where BRA's information was hacked and, was out there, and there were concerns around the type of information that may have come out. There are other organizations, sometimes very big organizations internationally, whose data whose data systems are hacked. And once people can get access to that information, they can use it to commit crimes. Credential stuffing. I put all of those in one box because they're sort of similar, but they're, just different avenues for it. Credential stuffing is basically where people find out information on you through social media. That you'll be surprised how much information people can gain from just viewing your social media accounts, your Facebook, Instagram, just Googling you and getting your telephone numbers, emails. If you ever did a presentation like this one, and I had anything personal there, people can get information. Even your name is something that then there is software that is automated, where that software generates millions of different versions of your name, and with a view to just getting one correct guess. And basically it keeps the application will keep stuffing different versions and combinations till eventually it gets one. And if you're doing that millions of times with millions of people, you can get 100 hits. Maybe 50 of those hits are going to be correct, the correct combination of a name, and you'll get access to someone's account or someone's email. And maybe 5 of those, 10 of those will have large balances, and it makes it all worth it because there's not a human being on the end of that. Phishing our emails, and really phishing was really the main source of the situation that we had last year. Many of you might have heard about that, where people were receiving emails which were not authentic emails purporting to come from their bank. And it would say something like, your account has been debited for $500. Click here to view the details. When they clicked, it would take them to what would be a dummy website that looks like your bank's login, internet banking login page. And you would enter, it would require you to enter your username, your password. And basically there is someone on the other end receiving that information as you enter it. And in doing so, we're gaining access to people's accounts. And that was happening across the industry, and that was a major source. It was coming in different forms. Sometimes it said, whatever, it could have been coming. I've received some from FedEx, from DHL, different things saying you have a package. And that's the smishing. Smishing is the next one, where it just comes, it's the same thing, but it comes by a text. But there's always usually a link that is requiring you to then enter into information. Vishing may be a little harder to achieve, but it does happen, where people will contact you by phone and it sounds legitimate. I know another lawyer, very intelligent person, who told me that she had spent an hour on the phone with someone who she thought was a representative from her bank. And it's only because the person became a little pushy for information that she felt was a little bit intrusive, that she decided to end the call, and when she called the bank, it was not a legitimate call. So, I mean, these things do happen. I haven't heard as many cases of vishing, but it does happen. Quishing is just simply where they use QR codes. So it might be a similar type message to win a prize, scan this code, or, and they're using that code instead of an actual link, because people are becoming more sensitive about links. Now they're just using a code. It's just a way to get you to then go on to their platform, where then they can steal your information. Social engineering is where people will reach out to you through social media and form relationships with you. And sometimes they will work on a relationship for 2 years, building a relationship where people feel like they're in a full relationship with someone who they've never met. And people do work those relationships as long as they can. These are organizations where they have employees who are paid to trick people. So it's not just that single person out there who's doing fraud. Sometimes it's an entire criminal organization that has many people employed just to, and they're talking, maybe chatting to maybe, they could be chatting to 50 people at once, using different personal or profiles, basically, to try to build that relationship and eventually convince that person to participate in something that results in them losing money. Voice cloning is probably the newest one that we're seeing. And that is basically using artificial intelligence and being able to clone people's voices using old videos or other videos of these people doing others, maybe speaking about other topics, but being able to make it seem as if this person is speaking about something that is encouraging some form of scam or facilitating a scam. So Shane is going to play a video now, which is not the actual, you may have heard about the governor of Central Bank. He was basically, fraudsters would have used a video of him to create a scheme where, it came out, a video was circulating on social media where he was encouraging the public to participate in an investment vehicle that was purportedly being issued by the central bank. I can't remember if it was a bond or what it was, but basically then the central bank had to make a statement that this was not a legitimate video. But if you watched it, unfortunately, we did try to get that original one, but we didn't get that one. I think they just tried to remove it as quickly as possible from the public space. So we did get the basically this one, which came after the actual fraudulent video. So you can play that one, Shane. We're not hearing the audio, Shane.
I restarted.
Yeah, thanks.
It has come to my attention that a digitally manipulated video falsely impersonating me as governor of the Central Bank of Barbados is circulating on WhatsApp and other online platforms. This video is a scam. It's designed to deceive and defraud individuals of their monies. Please do not engage with it or share your personal financial information in any form or fashion. This is another example of the lengths that people go to defraud ordinary persons. And I take this opportunity to urge Barbadians to remain vigilant and to report any suspicious content to the appropriate authorities.
So what you're seeing there is in the background is the actual video of that was being used, of the governor sitting there at his desk. This was probably, he may have done a press conference or something, or he may have put out content. The central bank may have put out content on their webpage or on their social media, and that video was then taken and altered to make it look like he was then inviting the public to invest in these funds. And obviously then you had to take certain actions, which probably would have resulted in transfer of funds into an account that was, a fraudster's account. So Shane is also going to play, I believe that in the video is next. Is it Shane? Another video, which really is to demonstrate, before you press play, Shane, this one really demonstrates the lengths, the size of these organizations, how organized they are to scam people, and sort of takes you through, what's going through the mind of the scammer, as well as what's going through the mind of the victim. So this one was a nice example. Can play, Shane.
Boss, got something? Yeah? I got one. I want it. I need it. Hey, put it in my ear. Get this one, please. United Data Group, good afternoon. This is Boyd. How may I help you?
Boyd. Hello. I just got a message saying that there's a problem with my computer.
Don't you worry. The message you received is from our United Data Group antivirus software. It's part of the software package that you pre-installed on your computer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not a computer person. What did you say the name of your product is again?
Now, our records show that you actually have an older version on your account. So what I'm going to need you to do is uninstall that and install the latest version.
I have no idea how to do that. My daughter set up everything for me.
What I would recommend, you take your computer to an IT specialist. However, keep in mind that you will lose all your data since they'll have to replace the hard drive.
I'm pretty remote out here. Everything I have is on the computer.
Okay. There is actually a software package that you can download that would allow me to reinstall remotely.
All right. Tell me what to do.
It's okay. Can you type this? friendlyfriend.net. Spelled just how it sounds.
Okay, I'm there.
And there should be a button on your screen that says install. And you click on that button.
I click the button.
So you're about to see some windows open close on your desktop as I reinstall the virus shield for you. Okay, I hope you're paying attention. Stick to the script, but not so much that you sound like a goddamn robot. All right? She has got 10K checking, life insurance annuity, Roth IRA, teacher's pension, and All right. She is a signatory on a $2 million account. Some charity. All right, kids. Let the script mining begin.
My computer's going crazy.
Totally normal. Just do not touch your keyboard. Because of this inconvenience, I'm going to credit back the subscription fees. How about that? I've gone ahead and deposited $500 into the account ending 020.
Oh, that's not my account. That's an account that I manage.
Can you log into that account and verify the transfer, please, Ms. Parker?
Yes, there's a transfer for $50,000.
Set the hook with sympathy. Ms. Parker, I made a terrible mistake. I was supposed to credit you $500, but I know I got a stuck key here. I'm gonna lose my job here. I got kids.
Oh, I don't want you to get in trouble, but I could wire the amount back. I will need a different password. Oh, 1 second.
Now, this is the master password for all her accounts. Okay, so the second we get it, we zero out everything.
You know, I think I should call the bank.
You know what? You're probably right, but there goes my job. And there goes all your data.
on this computer. Okay.
Yes, that is what I am talking about. Come on. We love you.
Hello? Hello, you still there? Uh-uh. Oh. What did I do?
So thank you, Shane.
Yeah.
So as you can see, it is not that little person sitting at home trying to scam you in every situation. Not that those don't exist, but as I said, there are very, very big organizations who people are, employed as, staff to come to work every single day to try to scam people. And that is what we're facing out there. They're very tech savvy, they're very charming, and basically what they have used, and I've listed here on this next slide, almost everything, maybe not everything here, but there's always a hook, how to get you to actually do what they need you to do, which is give away your information. In the video, you would have seen that obviously she trusted. There was a number that she called. They were able to talk about, that she needed to do X, Y, and Z, or she was going to lose her data. And, he's speaking very knowledgeably about the computer, and that builds trust. And then there was fear. If you don't do this, you lose all your data. Desire and greed didn't really feature so much in this one. Desire or greed is where maybe they're saying, if you scan this QR code and enter this information, you have a chance to win $5 million. And, that desire to make money quickly may trap people into giving away information that they shouldn't. They did use empathy in this one, where he did say, I don't know if you were able to follow the video, but basically how he managed to trick her was that he was saying that he would transfer $5,000 to her. And he said then he mistakenly transferred 50. So he actually did transfer 50,000. He transferred, he was supposed to transfer 5, and it was able to be reflected that he transferred 50 instead. So he's saying, I'm going to lose my job. And she then offers, with empathy, offers to transfer 50,000 back to him. Of course, $50,000 had not gone to her in error. So she transfers 50,000 of her money to him, and he played on her empathy to get her to do that. Distraction didn't play so much in this, and didn't feature that much. But that video, it is not a real video. I don't know if you guys recognize that is who used to play Clear Huxtable on the Cosby Show. Can't remember her name right now, her real name, but it's a good example of what really we face out there. Next slide. So some things that we need to remember. One thing is slow down, be vigilant, be cautious. There was a point in that video that she said to herself, or she said to him, I think I should call my bank. But she ignored that intuition to that something wasn't quite right. So it's all about slow down. Banks will never ask for your personal information, and that extends to any other organization should not either be asking you for that information. You can verify, call the bank, call the sender. As I said, it's not always the bank. It could be someone purporting to be FedEx, DHL, anybody else, any organization where you recognize the name and that the average person will use. They're not necessarily going to use a name that you don't recognize. They want to use something that is recognizable, familiar to you, where you feel, oh, okay, yes, I do have a package, or maybe this could be a family member that has sent me something. So, but verify using the official information. Don't use, you see, she used the number on the screen, whereas, you know, you need to verify by maybe searching for the legitimate number, looking for an official document that has the actual number of the organization, not using the number that was given to you in the email or the text message. Let's bring back the village culture. Look out for your neighbor. Listen out for people saying that, you know, talking about emails they may have received, and warn people, you know, especially those who you know who are not as savvy. If it's too good to be true, it's likely not legitimate. There's been a lot of I've seen a lot of scams around employment, and I think that actually hooks everyone, because what it is trying to sell you employment where you sit at home, log into your computer, and basically you can make lots of money doing very little. That is going to hook the average person who thinks I need some extra money, whether they have a job or they're retired or not. They're going to want to, you know, they're tempted to sign up for that kind of employment. And be politely paranoid. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I'm going to call, you know, let me call you back. I just want to check something. You know, there's no need to accuse anyone of anything. You just need to just, you know, take a moment and check. Install antivirus software. These things are easier said than done. I can tell you, I don't think I've ever installed antivirus software. I've always worked places where they did it for me. So it is different when you're now out of the working world, you're home, you have your home computers. What I would do with my home computers is I will make sure I have a reputable place where they can send somewhere to come and update my software, install antivirus software. You need to use strong and complex passwords. Again, easier said than done. There's so many websites now and registrations that we have to do online that everybody just wants one thing that's easy to remember, but that makes us more vulnerable. Enable multi-factor authentication. It does protect you. Avoid public Wi-Fi. Again, easier said than done. But again, you know, these things do expose us. So we do need to remember, once we're using someone else's Wi-Fi, whether in a supermarket, a restaurant, or anywhere, as tempting as it is, it exposes our information, because now, you know, we are basically on a public network, and some scammers will just sit in these places and wait for someone to log on. Employ safe browsing. Think before you click. Be careful on social media. Be mindful of strangers. And again, before giving away, throwing away devices, get them wiped. Take them somewhere where they will clean them off of all your data. There's a lot of data that exists that we can't see, that's there in, you know, on hard drives, etc. Get those wiped before either throwing away or giving away your devices. Next slide. Right. I think this is you, Keisha. Yes. So that's it for me. I don't know if we want to take questions now or at the end. I will leave it to the moderator to determine. Shane, I saw a couple people saying your sound was low. I don't know if it's at the max, but
Yeah, I
if it
did
is
put
not,
it to the
yeah,
max. I did
you
saw
did.
that, so I pushed it up to
Okay.
the max.
Okay, it does sound a bit better to me now, I think.
We can actually leave the questions to the end so we could get
To the
through
end.
most of
Okay,
the presentation.
sure. So thank you all, and I'll hand over to Keisha Applewaite for the next section.
Thanks, Sasha. So Sasha outlined sometimes you are hooked, sometimes you are caught, and the key thing is not to panic. Okay, emotions brought you here, panicking might have brought you here. You take a deep breath. There are still some things we can do to remediate the situation. If you think you might have been compromised, you think you clicked on something sketchy and now you're a little freaking out, that's okay. You can block your card. We have multiple avenues available. If you're using internet banking, you can go to the menu, look at the different options, and there's a block and unblock feature there. So you can go ahead, block your card. The next best thing to do would be to visit the nearest branch. It doesn't have to be your home branch. You go to the nearest physical branch. They will help you, and they will help make sure that your account is safe and protected from any further access. And you can also call customer care. It's available 24/7. I've put the number up there. You can take a note if you would like, and you can call them and let them know. Even if you suspect that you may have compromised your credentials, you can go ahead and call them. You can also visit your branch to complete a dispute form. If you have noticed some transactions happening on your account, you know they're not yours, you suspect they're unauthorized, just go down to a branch, fill out the form so that we can start investigating it. And you can also make a formal report to the police service. That's the Financial Crimes Investigation Unit, so they can also investigate. Yeah, next slide. All right, and Sasha would have talked a lot about what I would call stranger danger. So you know there are a lot of sketchy people out there who want to get their hands on your money, and you're kind of protecting it. You're making sure no stranger can steal the key to your house. But sometimes we give that key to other persons, and those persons may do transactions on your account that you don't actually intend for them to do. And one of the ways is a power of attorney. So a power of attorney is a document, usually an attorney would prepare it, and you give persons power over your affairs. It might be your bank account, your property. And sometimes you do that for very good reasons. You may not be able to visit the bank, and you know that this person, you can trust them, they're going to see to your affairs. But there is a risk that they may act in a way that you did not intend. They may withdraw more or even all of your monies on your account because you have effectively given over the key to your account to that person. Next. So I really want to suggest that if you do think you want to give a power of attorney, that you protect yourself as much as possible. So let's say you have gone in, you're going into surgery to fix your knee or so. You're going to be incapacitated for 6 months, and you say, okay, I'm going to give my nephew power to just kind of manage my affairs. I know that I'm going to be recuperating, so I'm just going to let him handle things for 6 months. He's going to take monies off my account. I think maybe $2,000 a month. What you can do is tell your attorney, I want a very narrow power of attorney. I want to give him power just for 6 months, only to withdraw $2,000 from my Republic Bank account for these purposes. There's no need in that situation to give him a wide power where he can have power over all of your affairs and all of your accounts, and he can sell property and rent your property. Don't give powers that you do not actually want persons to exercise. And as I said, put in an expiration date if possible. If you know it's only going to be for a limited period, you can limit the lifespan of your power of attorney. If you want to be even safer, you can have 2 persons act jointly. That way, if one person might be a little tempted, there's a second person to pull him along. And you are still responsible for monitoring your account. So you can log on to internet banking with Republic Bank, very easy, very safe, and you can check your transactions. So you're still going to be monitoring your transactions, still looking at your statements to make sure that there are no unusual transactions happening. And when you're all recovered, when you no longer need that power of attorney, you can revoke it. So you can have the attorney draw up something, or you can go to the bank and say, I no longer want this person using my power of attorney. Yeah. Another danger is joint accounts. So in the bank, we call them an or account or an and account. Or means either of us can withdraw monies, and means both of us have to agree, give joint instructions to withdraw the monies. Now, in a joint account, once you've made somebody a joint account holder on your account, even though you've put the monies on, you are basically saying they are joint with me, they have just as much rights as me. Once you have made somebody a joint account holder, since they have just as many rights as you need their consent to add somebody onto the account or to take somebody off of the account. And that can be very risky. If you have an OR account, that means the other joint account holder can withdraw monies without your consent. Now, that may be practical and that may be fine. That may be what you intended. But if they come tomorrow and they withdraw all of the monies from your account, that is what you have consented to. And that is a big risk. And you may say, well, let's make it safer. Let's make it an AND account. So I don't have to wake up one morning and find out that they've acted without my consent and taken off my money. Well, that also means that you need their consent to withdraw your money from your account. And, it happens in real life. I knew someone who decided to add her boyfriend, I guess future fiance, onto her account. They were in love. Things, de-escalated. And then he said, well, I'm not letting you withdraw any monies from your account. And she actually had to go to court to have the court declare that those monies were her monies and she was entitled to take it off. So be very careful giving persons powers over your account. Now, if you die, the other joint account holder will have control over the account. So you've put on $100,000, you've decided to add your grandson on because he's good with the computers and all of that. You've left the monies to your 2 children, but when you die, he has control over the account. It's not necessarily going to go to your estate. He will be able to manage the account and withdraw monies and so on as he decides. The other thing to remember is if you have a joint account holder and one person becomes mentally incapacitated, the entire account will be frozen. Even if it was an OR account, to protect the person who's mentally incapacitated, it will be frozen until the court appoints someone to act on that person's behalf. So it does protect the mentally incapacitated person, but it can be difficult because now there is no access to that account. Access to that account will be frozen. So there are alternatives. If you don't want to give someone that much power over your account, but you aren't necessarily able to come into the bank, you can consider a standing order. So you basically instruct the bank that there are certain payments that I want made. I know I pay ICBL $300 a month for health insurance. You can set up a standing order so that just goes automatically and there's nothing further for you to do. There's also online banking. It's free 24/7. And we also have free accounts that you can sign up for now. You just go there, you log in, you upload the documents, and you have an account. And you can operate it on your phone. I wouldn't say at the beach. I don't know if that public Wi-Fi is safe, but you can do it at home, safe Wi-Fi. One alternative that is not an alternative is sharing your PIN or your password. Again, that is giving somebody the key to your account. And if they use the PIN or password that you have given to them, then you have given them permission. And sometimes you do have instances where persons come in and they say somebody's taken off my monies from the ATM. You say, okay, let's get the video footage. Let's see who this person is. And when they look at the video footage, their face drops. And they know who has taken the monies off. It is their child. It is a close relative that they have trusted with their PIN and their ATM card. And there's nothing really that we can do about it because you have given permission to this person to use your card and withdraw monies. All right, so I'm gonna, after scaring you with that, I'm gonna pass you on to our data privacy officer, Inga King, for her to take you through this last segment.
All right, good evening. How private is your personal data? Do you know that sometimes things you share without even realizing can be collected and analyzed to form a profile of you? In a minute, we'll watch a short video that demonstrates how bits of information you post online can be put together to build a surprisingly detailed profile of who you are. As you watch it, think about what someone could learn about you just by checking your social media. At this time, Shane will play the video.
Shane, we're not hearing any sound.
Hot chocolate.
What's the name?
Joel.
What was the name?
Alex.
Alex. There you go, Johnny.
If you like our Facebook page, we give you a free hot drink and a free pastry.
We have a new like for Damien, and we have a new like for Damien.
Standing by. Hi there, can I help?
Yeah, I just liked your Facebook page. Okay, I'll search Facebook now. Search from Google. A phone number. Email address.
Okay, Carly, are you ready for
Information on Damien.
Yep, I am.
Mother's maiden name is
What's the name? Nicholas.
Nicola. His date of birth, 7th of May. She lives at 38A.
Just be a couple of seconds.
2 children, age 4 and 6. Previous address. She's got 3 shows.
Yep, got it. Damien, age 26 and a fitness instructor.
How do you know that?
Where did you go to UCL? Martin went to South Thames College, assistant psychologist at Great Ormond Street. Oh, better.
You know I'm a Christian as well.
Oh, yeah, we know everything about you, Martin. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Anna from Russia.
So this video caused me to rethink how much personal data I share on social media. I don't have a very big social media presence, but I post on my WhatsApp status. Do you know who views your WhatsApp statuses? Sometimes I receive a like from someone and I tend to go, how do I know you? Because very often you've shared your contact information and there are persons who view your statuses, but you're not even familiar with them. So recently, I took a picture of a particularly large cashew fruit, which I wanted to post on my WhatsApp status. And I received a notice on my phone screen advising me that the picture may include sensitive information. I was holding the fruit in my hand, and although I subsequently cropped the photo to reveal less of my fingertips, I received the same message. So I decided to take a picture of the fruit lying on the table instead. So we can see the ways by which entities are attempting to safeguard our personal data. In my case, it was Samsung, who was seeking to protect me. But what are we ourselves doing to ensure that our personal data is protected? An important part of protecting our personal data online is management of our privacy settings. Start by setting your privacy settings for your various devices. Entities that collect your personal data are required by law to put measures in place to ensure that it's kept safely and that it's used appropriately. In order to fulfill these requirements, when you visit a website or use an app, you will often see a pop-up with a link to the data privacy notice, which outlines how you will use and share your personal data. And I know from experience with Barb, you usually have your cookie notice popping up and you have your data privacy notice. So a pop-up with cookie settings, which allows you to select your cookie preferences, will also usually come up. And cookies are used to track users' behavior on entities' websites. The data collected can be processed to gain insights about user demographics and interests. It can also be shared or sold to other third parties like Google Analytics or TikTok for targeted advertising purposes and other uses. It is therefore important to manage your cookie settings by ensuring that it is set to essential or strictly necessary cookies only. Now, recently I was accessing several websites, and each time I went to a website, the cookie notice popped up. And I must admit that sometimes it can feel like a pain to pause and set your cookie preferences. However, it is an important thing to do in order to safeguard your personal data. You will be surprised to see the number of instances you will encounter when you actually check your cookie settings to see that the default has been placed at acceptance of all cookies. And you really don't want that. You want to set your cookie preferences to strictly necessary or essential. Apart from the data privacy and cookie notices, in some instances, there is a notice reminding you that you can manage your privacy settings in a particular circumstance or activity. So, for example, you may get a message that may pop up advising you that others can see your posts. And that then will be a reminder to you to set your preferences to determine who you want to see your posts. So be mindful that it is important to always set your cookie preferences. Even if few likes or shares or posts, these things can tell a significant story about you. At this time, what we're going to do, we're going to pause a minute to watch another short video.
What you may not realize is that there's probably more of your personal information floating around in cyberspace than you think. Everything from what you post on social media and your browsing habits to the information organizations collect about you online leaves a digital footprint. And your reputation is an important thing to maintain. We're all guilty of oversharing sometimes, but don't panic. Here's 3 things to remember. Personal information is like money. Value it, protect it. Information about you, such as the games you like to play, what you search online, and where you shop and live has value, just like money. Be thoughtful about who gets that information and how it's collected through apps and websites. Share with care. What you post can last a lifetime. Before posting online, think about how it might be perceived now and in the future and who might see it. Post only about others as you have them post about you. The golden rule applies online as well.
So remember to always stop, to think, and to use your judgment before you share. Thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you, Inga, Keisha, and Sasha. At this time, we would like to open the floor to any questions that the audience may have. You're reminded to place your questions in the chat, or you can use the raise hand feature if you would like to answer the question. I'll go to the chat. See, we have 3 in here. I'll summarize the first one. One person would have had some fraud would have happened on their account that they would have suspected. And they're asking, what are the steps in place to prevent internal bank fraud? So any of the panel can handle that.
You can handle that, Shane. So, I mean, there are multiple ways that banks would protect themselves from fraud. One of those is that we really don't have one person who will handle transactions. There's always going to be a dual approval process for transactions on accounts. So that make a checker type of dual custody arrangement for transactions where you will always have one person. If someone is doing a withdrawal, that is going to be double checked in the background to ensure that the information matches. Roles are separated where you again, similarly, you don't have one person who is doing the approval for something or doing a transaction, facilitating that transaction, and then also approving it on the other side. You have internal controls, you have things like monitoring of accounts, particularly if they're talking about internal fraud. If it's staff accounts, transactions involving staff accounts are monitored very closely. All staff accounts are flagged so that we know whenever a transaction is happening on a staff account, particularly anything suspicious as well. you have internal audit, you have external audit, where transactions are being looked at very carefully. And of course, if internal fraud is suspected, a full investigation will be done to ensure that the bank can determine what has occurred, and obviously whatever steps it needs to take to report that matter to the police, where the police would then take over from there as and handle it under their process. So I mean, obviously, it requires customers and the bank to be watching very closely to ensure that we guard against that. And even from the employee and recruitment side, we do background checks. We do a lot of work to try to ensure that we hire good employees who have nothing in their backgrounds that are concerning. So you just have to sort of tackle it from different perspectives to try to mitigate against the risk of any internal fraud. And of course, any employee that is caught doing anything dishonest, whether big or small, will be terminated. And as I said, depending on what it is, it will be reported to the police. And in those situations, we do refund customers once it is determined that any staff would be responsible for that. I can say that has not occurred in quite a few years. That does not happen often, I should say. So, but it does. It's impossible to prevent. Once you're working in a situation where your money is your service, there will be people who are dishonest and there will be people who are tempted. And we do see those reports from time to time in the news where people are charged with those offenses and have to go through the court system.
All right, thank you very much, Sasha. We have a comment here from Yvonne. She said that she thanks us for the presentation, and she also said that if you call the customer care, you're basically transferred to another jurisdiction in the Caribbean. So she would like to know, how would the local RBBL be able to assist with any of these matters?
So I could take that one again. I mean, I do know that we now have shared services where basically we have our contact center is in Trinidad. However, when you do call the contact center, they do have the capability to freeze an account. So if there's any concern regarding fraud, the person who's answering the phone in Trinidad can handle that situation, is supposed to be able to handle that situation and freeze that account. And as Keisha would have mentioned in her presentation, the feature is in online banking where you can actually block your account as well to prevent any further loss to your funds.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Brenda. She wants to know if there's any recourse if a sibling who has a joint account status on a parent's account and takes monies from the parent's account to transfer to their own without any discussion, if there's any recourse for that type of activity.
Absolutely. What we have found in those situations, however, I mean, if a family member basically does a transaction that's unauthorized and has, without your consent, accessed your account and transferred money to themselves or done any transaction which you have not consented to, that amounts to fraud. That amounts to an illegal activity. And it's reportable not only to the police, but you can report it to the bank. But the bank is going to treat that as a criminal offense. So again, the bank is going to report that person to the police. So, I mean, oftentimes what we do find, those situations do come up from time to time, but usually the parent or the relative does not want that person treated in that manner. So they usually will ask the bank not to report it. Now, as long as, if that is the case, the bank is not going to refund that money in that situation. A criminal act has taken place, and really, it will be treated as a stolen money, as stolen funds from an external person. It would be different if it was something internal, where a staff member did it, where the bank then would be fully liable for that. But if a family member has gotten access to your computer or gotten access to your account, basically they've committed a criminal act. But again, as I said, it is up to the person who has been the victim of that to decide to go all the way. And you know, sadly, in most cases, or not sadly, very understandably, you know, people don't want their child, or you know, they want to forgive them and deal with it otherwise.
And so, Sasha, in this particular instance, she's asking if they have specific joint account status. So the
Or for
sibling,
joint accounts.
yeah, so they're joint on the account. Is there any recourse if they didn't discuss that with the primary account holders?
I'll let Keisha, because Keisha did speak to that, but I'll let her. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the risks, and I'll let Keisha just expand on where the person is a joint account holder.
Mm-hmm. And as Sasha just mentioned, if they weren't a joint account holder, then it would be unauthorized. And now we're looking at, you know, maybe a criminal sort of action. But if they are a joint account holder, now it's authorized because you have told the bank that any instructions this person gives, we should obey. So in that case, the person did not need to consult. If it's an OR account, they had full authority to go ahead and make withdrawals from the account.
So, and thanks, Keisha. So another spin on it is if, let's say, the primary account holder, which is the parent, would have passed away before action can be taken. So they have a sibling that's joint, but the parent passes away. What recourse do the other siblings have?
Right. And in that case, if they were a joint account holder and they've done a transaction, it was authorized, they were entitled to do so. And once the parent passes away, that joint account holder will have entire control of the account as the survivor.
So that is why you know, we are speaking about the risks and knowing, being knowledgeable about when you want to take the decision to make someone joint on your account. Because basically, if you pass away, it's as if that is their money. That is how it is treated. If you pass away, the entire amount, it doesn't go into an estate like other funds. If you were if you were the sole owner of that account, then those funds would go to estate, and then the siblings, they would go through the whole process of estate administration and distributing the proceeds of that estate. But where it's a joint account, it's treated differently, which is why we are saying, you know, we need to be very mindful of taking those actions where we might do it out of convenience to say, you know, we want someone who can just do, you know, be able to use funds in the account for certain reasons, but we really didn't mean for that person to actually inherit all of the money in the account on their own. But that is essentially what the repercussion of that is. So there are other ways, as Keisha spoke to, other ways of facilitating for convenience purposes, somebody having access without actually making them joint on the account.
All right, thank you, Sasha and Keisha. We don't have any other questions in the chat, and I don't see any hands raised. Do we have any other questions from the audience? All right. I don't see any more questions. At this time, I would like to invite, actually, I see a hand up from Barb.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to sincerely thank the representatives of Republic Bank and our BART members for joining us tonight for this informative session on protecting your account. Your participation shows just how committed you are in safeguarding not only your finances, but also your peace of mind. Thank you again for your time, your attention, and your commitment to security. Stay safe. Let's continue working together to protect what matters most. Have a wonderful evening and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Sister Amelia.
You're welcome. Good
Good night.
night.